So, Katie, it's so good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too.
And I have been fascinated. I'm gonna get the dive right into the good stuff because your channel name is the Greenland Quilter, and you've talked about living in Florida and I'm assuming growing up in the United States. So, how in the world did you get from Florida to Greenland?
Um, so uh, when the internet first started around, or when I got involved with the internet, it was in 1994. Bought my first computer then, and I my local ISP provider told me the best way to learn how to navigate the internet was to download an IRC program, which means Internet Relay Chat, and go into newbies, and there's lots of people there that will help you learn how to navigate the internet and browsers and things like that. And I had been in there, I guess, about 2 years, and I started kind of meandering out to other channels, and I stumbled upon a channel that was private and had rules. I mean, you couldn't join the channel unless you agreed to the rules, and he would put you out if you broke those rules because he was not going to tolerate certain things. And it turns out it was like a little family in there, and I had similar interests as they did. And so there was probably about 30 of us, and I joined that channel, I think, in 1996, I think. And I'd been in there a long time, and then in 2001, Nikolai stumbled into the same channel. And he joined, and I still had a husband then, and we became like best friends, like you and me would have a girlfriend. He was like that. And we talked about, he told me about Greenland, and he knew about my life, and we shared a whole lot of things, and we had so much stuff in common. It was crazy. And then when my husband passed away in 2006, I thought I was done having any kind of relationship because, the two men in my life had been cruel. And um, so, I was still talking to Nikolai, and in 2009, he said that he was going to come to the States. And I'm like, okay, where are you going? Because it was his first trip to the States. He says, well, I'm going to come to Florida, and I'm hoping a certain woman would take me around and show me a little bit of Florida, since she brags about it all the time, which I did. I mean, I used to tell people I would never leave Florida because it's so beautiful, and it is beautiful. And uh, so when he came to visit, the unthinkable happened. He wasn't looking, I wasn't looking. I thought I was done. And when I went down to Tampa to meet him for, in person for the first time, we'd known each other, but we'd never met. And when I went down there and I got out of the van and we hugged, something happened between us. I mean, we both felt it. And so he was there 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And I took him to three different places. And he he is an amazing man because, he had never been to Florida. He came in August, of all times of the year to come, which is, hotter than Hades in August. And I had taken him floating down the river. That was fun. But I took him to some place that I hadn't even been to, called Devil's Millhopper Sinkhole. And you have to go down 279 steps to get to the bottom of it. And by the time you get to the bottom of it, it's a completely different, it's hot, it's humid, and that man never complained once, not once. And the more we hung around each other, the closer we got. And then when it was time for him to leave, it was like, I don't want you to leave. And he's like, I don't want to leave, but I have to go back to work. And so when he got back to Greenland to go to work, he had called me, and he says, I've been thinking about you since I left. I'm like, okay. I don't know what he was going to tell me. And he says, I want to date you. And the first thing out of my mouth was, how's that going to happen?
Right, long distance.
Right? He's 3,000 miles away. And he told me, he says, we'll figure it out. And I said, okay. So I we were dating, and he wanted me to be his girl, and I said yes to that, and all this kind of stuff. He was a real proper gentleman about all of it. And then in December, around the third week in December, he told me that he would be having to take their ship, the Qaqortoq, to dry dock. And I'm like, so what are you going to do for 2 months while it's in dry dock? He says, well, I'm going to go visit a girl. And he's always such a humorous prankster. And he knew it would rile me up because he didn't bother to say it was me. He just says, I'm just going to go see a girl. I'm like, who are you going to go see? He says, you, if you'll have me. And I'm like, sure, come on. So he flew over and he stayed about 6 weeks. And I took him home with me that time because the first time I didn't take him home with me other than to go feed the horses and the dogs. I didn't, he didn't stay at the house. And so when I took him home with me, we were together for 6 weeks. And if anything bad was going to happen, it would have happened because most people, when you're under the same roof, will show their true colors.
Yeah, after
Usually.
about 3 days, that good behavior wears
yeah,
off.
getting on each other's nerves. Yeah. And he wasn't like that. It was just Mr. Positivity, And so about the middle of February, we went down to Clearwater, and while we were down there in Clearwater on the 14th of February, he asked me to marry him. And I said yes. Was I scared? You bet I was.
Yeah.
Did I think I might be making a stupid mistake? Yeah, thought that too.
Yep.
Well, I didn't have a track record that I could look back upon and say, okay, well, this man was good to me. This man, I didn't have any of that. All I had was bad. And so when he asked me, I said yes. And then we got right before he left, we got to talking about when did we want to get married? And originally we talked about getting married in around June or July of 2020, 2011. Mm-hmm. And because that's when Kristen was supposed to come home from leave because she was stationed in Japan on the USS George Washington. And but then she called me, I don't know, when he had already left. She called and said, Mom, they're not going to let me come home when they needed to because an earthquake happened. Mm-hmm. And that kind of messed everything up. Sure. And I told Nikolai, and he says, okay, we'll see. We'll figure it out. That's what he said. And then he says, but I have an idea for you. Why don't you fly over here in the middle of winter or at the beginning of winter, which would have been mid-December, and stay till mid-January. And let's see how your lungs react to winter here. Because winter in North Florida, it was always trying to murder me. And I always knew a cold front was coming before anybody else did, before the weathermen even said anything about it. And so I said, oh, that's interesting. I've only ever flown like 4 times in my life before then. And 2 times it was to New York, one was to California, one was to Illinois. Those are the only times I've ever gone anywhere. And I'm thinking, I don't know how to fly across the pond. Right. And he says, I'll help walk you through it. He says, but the first thing we got to do is get you a passport. So we did the passport thing. And so when I got ready to fly, he told me I'd be flying into Copenhagen. And the day that I went to the airport, Jacksonville had canceled the flight that I was supposed to go from Jacksonville to Newark. But Newark was having bad weather that day. And so they canceled it to the next morning. And so by the time I got in the air to Copenhagen, I had missed my flight going from Copenhagen to Nuuk. Mm-hmm. I think I was flying into Nuuk or either Kangaloo, one of them. And so I only had so much money in my bank account. And I called him and I was using my bank card and I wiped out all my money because of one stupid little phone call.
Oh, no.
And I told him what was going on. And he says, okay, see if you can find an information desk. And I finally found one. It took me a while because I didn't know anything about that airport. Most everything was being spoken in another language I didn't even recognize. And because it's Danish people, and every time I asked for help, they would send me to somewhere else, and finally they sent me to this one desk, and there was this young kid, and there was an older man sitting in his chair at a desk, and he's watching this whole conversation going on between me and the young kid, and the young kid acted like he didn't understand a single thing I said, and he got up and he says, "Why don't you go do this? I'll take care of her." And he said, "Okay, do you know the phone number to Nikolai?" I said, "Yes." So I gave it to him. So he called Nikolai, and him and Nikolai, they contacted the travel agent that Nikolai had used it, and they did a three-way phone call, and they got me another flight. And it ended up that I went from Copenhagen. I spent the night in Copenhagen that night. Then the next day I flew to Iceland. Spent one night in Iceland. So Iceland was a real treat because it reminded me of this, Denmark and all these areas have this really European feel to it, but it was so pristine and neat. And I just was having a good time seeing all this stuff. And spent the night there. Then I had to spend the night in Nuuk because I went from Iceland to Nuuk. And finally, went from Nuuk to where he was at. And so I got to experience Greenland at Christmas. And between the Christmas time and New Year's, he says to me, we're going to get married before you go back home. I'm like, "We are?" He says, "I already got it all planned out." And I'm like, "You've been busy." He says, "Are you okay with all that?" And what it was is he didn't want to wait. He felt like that if we waited on the Navy, we might wait forever.
Right.
And so on January the 2nd, we got married.
Aw, nice.
And then when we sat down and talked, well, where we go, who's going to do the migrating? And we weighed all of our options, plus the laws in the United States versus the laws here in Greenland and Denmark, because basically Denmark controls foreign affairs. And it made more sense for me to do the move. I mean, the kids were all grown up. Everybody was spread out a little bit, but they were starting their own lives with husbands, except for Thomas. And, so I said, well, it makes sense for me to move. I mean, I have to find homes for horses and dogs and sell almost all of my stuff off and put the rest in storage. But, it made more sense at the time. And he also pointed out, it might be a good time for me to maybe heal.
Yeah.
I would be away from the source of all of the bad things that I had in Florida. And that made good sense too. And so I moved over here with one dog and two suitcases.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And,
Talk about a fresh start.
So I flew out of Jacksonville on the 15th of August of 2011, and I got here on the 18th of August, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. Wow. Big adjustment, I would think, because I just have the impression of Greenland and the community you live in as being, kind of a small town and very just kind of that whole feel of, all your neighbors, you don't, obviously you're a little bit isolated compared to big city American life.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the two hardest things for me to adjust to was the language barrier really kicked my butt for about 2 years. I would come home squalling.
Yeah.
Because they could understand a lot of what I was saying, but they couldn't answer me.
Yeah.
Because, the old saying is if you don't use a language, you lose it. And they all had a lot of the population, had English in their belt. But like Nikolai said, if they didn't bother to watch movies in English, or the reason his English is so good is because he listens to audibles in English and movies in English, and he on the computer he reads English, and he's fluent in 3 languages because of the way he listens to these languages in his head. And so that was, a problematic for me because, a lot of them could. Is it this way now? It's not. Um, of course, I understand more Greenlandic now because I've been here long enough that I can understand a lot of what they're saying too. But when what I can't answer in Greenlandic, I answer in Greenlandic. But if I can't, and I answer in English, they know what I said. So
Sure.
there's not a barrier like there used to be. And the younger generation, say 6 to 10-year-old age, right in that age group, I used to couldn't talk to them at all
Oh, wow.
because they didn't understand anything I was telling them.
Hmm.
And now when I had come to the defense of a couple of young girls, there was this little boy, he had a reel and rod,
Mm.
and they were down at the harbor, and I was sitting across. I had just gotten off from work from tour guiding, and I was sitting there just chilling out, and the two kids were sitting on this Eric the Red rock,
Mm.
and and these boys were fishing, and one of them stopped fishing and came up, and he was popping her
Oh, sure.
across the shoulder with
Yeah.
his reel. And she kept, you could hear her telling him to stop in Greenland, and he wouldn't stop.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, young man, you need to stop right now. And he looked at me and he ran.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Sometimes
then
tone of voice.
yeah. And then the two girls were like, thank you for helping us. And they did it in English, not
Oh,
Greenlandic.
okay.
And I said, you can speak English? Yes, ma'am. I'm like, oh, so so they're picking it up. And I think it's because they're about to do, I think, a language switch where it's Greenlandic, English, and Danish
Okay.
instead of Greenlandic, Danish, and English
Oh,
because of
sure.
tourism. And,
Mhm.
most countries over here on this side of the pond, they have a mother tongue and they also teach English.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
if they go to another country that's English speaking, like, say, uh, Scotland or somewhere like that, they have the ability to talk to each other while they're traveling. So
Right.
that happened. And the other thing that I had to adjust to was, our country, yours and mine,
Hmm.
everything is so fast,
Yes.
fast. It's like you're doing 80 miles an hour in a car.
Hmm.
Here, you might be doing 30 miles an hour in a car. A whole life is slow. It's
Hmm.
slowed down. Don't expect anything to happen in one day because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I've had to adjust to that, and I've had to change my mindset about it and learn to, it's okay that I don't have to hurry up and get something done, kind of thing. Especially when you're trying to do paperwork for the government or whatever. Like when I was doing my residency stuff, we might not hear from the Danish government for 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you do, when I did, it was always, here's your new card,
Mhm.
you're fine. We have not been hassled. Um, the immigration here is it's easy. You do the paperwork, it goes to Denmark, they look at the paperwork, and if they see a discrepancy, then of course they'll hit you back with it, which we didn't experience that.
Yeah.
And you don't pay any money at all, none, zero. And I have never been asked to show my residency card the whole time I've lived here.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and when I go to Denmark, running around Denmark itself, I've never been stopped and said, "Can I see your passport?" Or "Can I see your,"
Mm-hmm.
you know, none of that. The only time my passport comes into play is going in and out of the airport.
Sure. Sure.
Now, here inside of Greenland, they don't even ask to see that when you're flying domestically.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, will that change? Probably,
Yeah. Could be.
because we have an international airport, and they shut the airport down for 2 days because of some kind of security issue that it wasn't did it I don't know if they were short staffed or what caused it, but something happened where they wouldn't put anybody on an airplane and send them until they went through the right kind of security. So that may be changing. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
We'll adapt,
um
but that's amazing. Just that, uh, you have described Nikolai as your soulmate, and it's so wonderful that people make those connections and follow their heart. That's beautiful.
I never thought that, I've only met one other man, and he was 30 years my senior. And he looked at life the same way Nikolai does. And you know, when I first had to move out of my parents' house, um, and it was rough trying to survive on a minimum wage job and everything, and because I had chronic asthma, that contributed to more issues, and I kept getting sick and stuff. And he was from Seattle, and this is when I was still in the church, and he had joined the church like 2 or 3 years before I decided I had enough of what was going on at home. And one day he says, you always sound sick. All the time you sound sick. I said, that's because this place I'm living in is so cold. You know what he did? He he shows up over at my house and he gives me one of his cashmere sweaters. And you know what he says to do? He says, sleep in it.
Aw.
And he says, this will keep your chest and everything warm. And I never asked for anything. He just did that. And he took me out to dinner a lot. And I had my first cocktail in my life because of him. It was pretty funny. And, and I said, and the lady who, her name is Linda, when I first moved out, she told me if I needed a place to stay, come to her. And I'd come to her. And one day out of the blue, I said, you and Ron need to get together. She says, Ron Hall? I said, yeah, you're not married. He's not married. And he's so sweet. He would be good for you. Then they started dating and they got married.
Maybe the matchmaker. Yeah.
But I loved it because she was happy. He was happy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I love hearing all about your journey to Greenland, but the other part of your channel is quilting, and that's our common love. So tell me how you got started quilting and who taught you your first project, that kind of stuff.
My mother, well, as far as sewing's concerned, I took a home economics well, let me backtrack a tiny bit. My mother used to make all of our clothes when we were little kids, me and my two sisters. This is before my brother came along. And so I have pictures of us wearing simple, solid colored dresses, and she would take and put, the uh it's not eyelet lace, but it would be flower lace. And she would put one strip on each side going down the front of the dress. She would do something always like that. She would do something cute with them. And so there's many pictures of all those girls dressed in some kind of dress like that. So she had this Singer sewing machine. And so when we moved to Lake City, and I was in the 8th grade, I think, you have to take home economics class. And when I was in there, we made aprons and I think pot holders or something. And I went home one day and we hadn't been too long into the church. And every time I didn't have very many church, or because of the religion that we were in, we weren't allowed to wear pants or shorts or wear shirts like this that are sleeveless. And that meant, buying dresses and longer sleeve things, all these things that cost a lot of money back then. One dress would cost $50. Mm-hmm. And so one day I said, Mom, can't we go to the fabric store? Let's go look at fabric and see how much it is a yard versus paying $50 for one dress. Turns out that I could make 3 dresses for that price.
Right.
And so I said, will you show me how to use a sewing machine? She's like, okay. But she set ground rules, like you don't touch the tension knob.
Right.
You never touch the tension knob, ever. And I'm like, okay. But all 3 of us picked up sewing that way, and she showed me how to use the machine. And before you knew it, I was making all of my dresses and everything. The only thing I really wasn't making a lot of is a lot of times you could actually buy shirts, button down front shirts and things like that, or t-shirts that had the short sleeve here.
Yeah.
From Walmart. But outside of that, I was making all of my skirts and stuff. And that's how I started sewing. So when I moved here, one of the first things I said to Nikolai after he went to sea, and when he came home, I told him, I said, I don't know what to do with myself. He says, what do you mean? I said, I went from having a substitute teaching job, horses, and I was racing one of them, every weekend I was racing and and gardening outside, and now I have zero to do. What am I supposed to do? He says, have you been on YouTube? No. Well, surely there's something on YouTube hobby wise that you'd be interested in. And I said, well, I know how to crochet. He says, well, go see what you can find out. So I joined two crochet groups on Facebook, and this that you see behind me, this mandala, was one of the groups I joined. And I found by going on the internet, and also I was moseying around YouTube a little bit, I discovered that this sew along or this crochet along was going to happen. And I found a company. All of this is stove cotton, so I managed to get this here because this is DMC. Almost all of it's DMC, except maybe 3 or 4 colors which I bought in the United States, but it's all #3 cotton yarn. And then I found an online site to buy yarn from, and so I was doing that for a while. And then in 2015, I stumbled onto a channel, and it was Yvette Renee, and she was doing an unboxing of Cotton Cuts classic box, Fat Quarter Shop So sampler box. These were all in one live. Sweetwater quilt label subscription, and she was talking about Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, So I asked Nicola, I said, Nicola, you see this, because I went to the website and I showed it to him. I said, I want to sign up for this. And I said, can we go up to Bruce and buy me a little Singer sewing machine? He says, okay, let's go. So we went up there and we found one, and I bought a little Singer Talent. And when the first Sew Sampler box came in, and I also bought one of those Quilters planner books where it had patterns in it, along with, set, you could make it as a planner.
Right.
And it had blocks in there. So I was taking blocks or taking in and trying to make these blocks. And in fact, this block here came from that planner. This is my first block.
That's gorgeous.
The only thing different is I did this part as I wanted something. I just didn't want this to be solid. So I had been seeing people do paper piecing on the internet, and I went and I took a piece of paper and I draw, and you can see that they're not the same all the way around. They're a little bit off on each one, and that's okay.
Yeah,
no big deal. It was just I was messing around. I was like, let's do this, because I wanted to see what paper piecing was, what the big deal was about paper piecing. So I made a little design, and I made sure that this was the same size block as all of the rest of it.
Right.
And this is where that came into play.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had made several of the different blocks from the planner, and I realized I want to learn how to make quilts. And so I have my grandmother. My maternal grandmother was a quilter, but my mother wasn't. I'm not sure why that is. Yeah. So I had this desire. I wanted to pick up another hobby, and then I started watching Yvette all the time, and then she started talking about Sew Becca, and I ended up with Becca's channel, and I was learning a lot from her channel. And I think I started I had subscribed to the Cotton Cuts Classic box and the Sew Sampler box. And probably a year later, or well, actually, the spring of 2018, I signed up for my first puzzle mystery, which was Stratford.
Okay.
And that was when it really, really made me realize I really need to learn how to do things. I didn't know why we were like, my first question of the day is, why do we have to do 1/4-inch seam allowance? When you're making clothes, you use, what is it, 3/8 or something like that?
3/8 or 5/8. Yeah, I've seen a lot.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's a wider one. Why do we got to do that? And when you're going through videos, no one talks about why we have to do that. But I would follow the directions and do the 1/4-inch. I just didn't know why you had to do it that way. And I don't know. I just got hooked.
Yeah.
And to start with, I was just messing around with just cotton
Hmm.
because I didn't know what batiks were. Well, I knew what batiks were because I was exposed to making a batik in elementary school. We had dyed fabric and used wax and covered certain spots to make
Hmm.
some design, and then we would dye it again. I learned how to do that actually. We did that, and we also did tie dyeing from the same teacher. So I had some exposing to it, and I remember that I'm like, oh, I would really like to learn to do more of that because it was so much fun dyeing that stuff. It was cool,
Hmm.
and I think I had been learning for 3 or 4 years, and then it just morphed itself
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. The online slash YouTube quilt community really is inspiring and welcoming and just
Yeah,
a great place to be.
I met a lot of people. I mean, I never even thought to do a YouTube channel until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had been thinking about it before then because at the time I was thinking about I should take all my videos of all my Greenland stuff
Hmm.
and put them on YouTube. And I haven't got all of them up yet. I mean, we have hundreds of them,
Yeah.
but I have thousands of pictures.
I bet. I bet.
I have 12,000 pictures on my Flickr page,
Wow.
and most of it is Greenland.
Hmm. Sure.
And so, photography has been a part of my life since I was 13.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was outside taking pictures of every plant I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those would be really neat videos because you can just, put some music there and let the
Yeah, let
photos
it
flow.
run. Yep.
Yeah, occasional titles if you want to identify the plants and give people the interesting stories about Greenland. So, yeah, there's always not that you have to follow my video ideas, but yeah, that's always neat. Um,
So I would say I've been making at least making quilt blocks since 2015.
okay. Nice. Nice.
My first finished quilt though I finished in 2018, and it was a friendship quilt.
Hmm.
And I did that one in batiks, and then I turned around this past year for my last year I think it was.
Hmm.
My boss turned 60 years old, and I gave her the friendship quilt.
Oh,
So I
nice.
gave her my very first quilt.
Oh,
So
wow.
only I only have pictures of
Uh-huh.
it. Um, yeah, and it was it's just like a small lap kind of quilt. It wasn't nothing huge or nothing like that. It in some of my videos, my earlier videos, if you have a chance to go look on the live ones, you'll see that friendship quilt hanging behind me
Okay.
in the sewing room that I'm not in yet. Back in it's hanging up in front of it, and you'll see the quilt. It's there. So I do have it documented in pictures, and it's in several of my videos.
Hmm. Yeah, that is one of the nice aspects of videos and blogs and all that kind of stuff is you have the record of those projects. So,
Yeah,
um,
I'm glad I did that.
speaking of giving that quilt away, do you mainly quilt with other people in mind to give as gifts or anything, or are you just enjoying the process and keeping them for yourself?
Right now, I have 18 quilt tops. No, 20 now. I have 20 that are not quilted.
Mhm.
Um, Now I am working on a dragon fruit right now, which is a tulip pink so long through Qaqortoq. That's going to be for my oldest granddaughter.
Mhm.
And I've already got things lined up that when I finish it, I'll be sending it to Sherry Yurton. She's going to quilt it on her long arm for me. And then it's going to go from Sherry to Teresa Louise because she volunteered. Instead, the reason it's going to two different people is because originally I was just going to send it to Sherry. She was going to quilt it and then send it back to me so I could bind it. And then Teresa says, "Why do you need to do that? Send it to me and I'll do it for you."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Are you sure?" She says, "Yeah, why spend extra shipping when
Right.
you can just have it sent to me here in Idaho? And since I'm in Idaho and she's in California,
Mhm.
so the shipping won't be astronomically high price between us. And let me bind it and then send it on its way." And I'm like, "Okay." So
Oh, that's
that's what's going to happen with that one. Now, will I give all of mine away eventually? Yes.
Mhm.
I think that most of the more colorful artistic ones will end up with Lynette because Lynn's the artist. She's always, since she was 3. I probably will give more to my oldest granddaughter since she seems to have the same talent.
Okay.
And everybody else in my family will get quilts for me. Just when I'm ready to do it.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit how do I put this? I think I'm just sewing for me right now. And that might sound wrong, but um it's because I'm still learning and I don't know where I want it to go yet as far as where how I want to express myself. And there was a discussion on one of my lives Friday, I think it was. Someone made the comment, we want to see you make a quilt that expresses who you are. And we all know which way that's going to go when I do it. But I have been considering that thought, let's make 100-color quilt, but I need to find the right design to do it with, or either I design it myself. But I'm still learning on how to just design from my head, and getting it out on paper is too hard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's so many wonderful resources too. I fight that battle. I've got my own designs, but then I see so many beautiful designs out there that I want to try, with some other techniques and things. So yeah,
I want to do a Judy Niemeyer quilt, because I could use all those colors in one of those. But am I skilled enough to do it?
Yes, I will say, and I've done quite a few Judy Niemeyer patterns, and they're one of these things that they look really intricate, but you know how to paper piece. Paper piecing, you're only sewing that one little straight line at a time. So just because she has, lots of little segments, you can sew a straight line. You can do Judy Niemeyer. So
yeah, I meant to ask people if you, that was one of the things I was going to start asking. How many of y'all had done a Judy Niemeyer, and what's your take on skill sets? Because I think that would be a good way for me to express myself. I've seen 2 or 3 patterns that I really think would work for me, where I can really get expressive with it. They're expensive,
yeah,
but
yeah. But they are, the thing that makes them, I guess, expensive is that she gives you, like 2 sets of papers. She does it a little bit different because she gives you one set of papers that gives you kind of like the actual or the oversize cutting instructions, and then you have another set of papers where you make it the exact shape and final
got
design.
you.
So when
Okay.
you buy the whole, you're getting this thick book and all these papers, but once you start following her directions,
Okay.
it's
Because I definitely think I think that's the route I want to go. I
yeah.
do have 2 New York beauty books in there that I bought that has all the stuff in it. It's just that I probably eventually will mess around with that, but they have curves, and I have never done curves.
And Judy's curves, again, aren't very, they're okay for beginners. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, there's some tricks to it, but there's all sorts of YouTube folks, and we have our
There's lots of y'all.
that can hold your hand. So
Yes, like, here, come with me and I'll show you how to do it.
yeah, and it's one of those things. You just have to try it. I always encourage people just to, if it's something you want to do, give it a try. Take some, make an extra copy so that you have a practice one to
Yeah.
start. And yeah, but I think if you put your mind to it, you can get it
Yeah.
done. Don't let the fear hold you back. So, you want to try Judy Niemeyer. Anything else on your quilting bucket list?
I want to learn how to do free motion quilting. That's the other one. I haven't even tried to do that yet. I know this machine is capable of it, but I haven't done it. And the other is I've done reverse applique, which is simple to me. It's just simple.
Right.
But doing applique itself, where you do it on top of the fabric,
Mm-hmm.
I've never done it, and I would like to learn. But I need some. I'm a visual learner,
Mm-hmm.
so I need someone who has lots of patience and can walk me step by step.
Step by step. Yeah. Yeah. I've done a couple applique quilts, but I was doing the machine appliques to where I was using like a buttonhole stitch or some kind of simple stitch around
Yeah,
the
the
edge.
zigzag thing. Yeah,
Yeah, it just got so tedious. And, I'm same thing with machine embroidery. I'm intrigued by it. I like some of the designs, but then I think about sitting and watching the machine stitch out all of those little designs, and I'm like, oh, I might get bored with that pretty fast.
yeah.
So,
The only reason I haven't bought a simple embroidery machine is, wouldn't it be a waste of money if I didn't use it at all?
right, right. So,
Because I haven't. I mean, I've messed around a little bit with the monogramming on my
uh-huh.
Janome. And I think that if I played with it enough, I would probably figure it out and be able to at least use the monogramming.
Mhm.
But I feel like that I would rather spend money on another Janome that's bigger than
Mhm.
I had to buy one that has all this embroidery stuff on it. Me Nick like told me I could have a M8 if I wanted it, and it has a stitch regulator that'll help with free motion quilting.
Mhm.
But I have no desire to own the M17 because half that machine is
Right.
embroidery,
Yeah.
and it's pricey.
Yeah, and then you've got all the stabilizer stuff and all the special threads, and it's just a whole
Yeah.
big rabbit hole.
Well, oh yeah, another rabbit. Yeah, big whole ball of wax that's gonna be expensive.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Um, so tell me more about your quilting style. What colors do you gravitate to? Are there any that you totally avoid and, never want to quilt with that color?
Well, as you know, I've been on a big, huge batik kick for the last what? Well, we're in number 9 month right now, and I've only done, I think, the only thing that's been continent I've worked on this year is the current sew along we're doing with charm packs
Mhm.
for the channel, which finally got a name.
Oh,
Its name is going to be Katie's Creative Chaos.
oh, there you go. I love it.
And that's what they all voted for, so that's what it's going to be called. But yeah, I don't know. I think that the first time I got exposed to batiks came at maybe someone sent me something, a small piece, and I'm like, wow, the colors in it were just um it blew me away, to put it that way. If I was still in Florida, do I think I would be sewing anything, especially with batiks? Probably not. But living here in Greenland has inspired me. There's just something about everybody. I know you've heard this. A lot of people make these little comments like Iceland should be called Greenland and Greenland should be called Iceland. What they don't realize is Greenland is actually green.
Mhm.
When spring comes and all the ice melt, well, not the ice cap, but the regular snow and everything melts, the coolest things happen. And I'm tying this in with the reason I like batiks. When spring comes, the first thing you see is dandelions. Within 10 or 11 hours, you walk by it that morning and that afternoon, it's got a big yellow flower on it. And there'll be yellow everywhere. And then there's blues everywhere. And there's more smaller yellows and whites and pinks and purples. And then you have these before we lose all of our nighttime hours, because we live on the lake, and so the sun sets behind the mountain over here. The sunsets are so vibrant and in your face, and I I think that inspired me. I'm like, let's. I didn't think I would ever want to make anything so bright and happy, and right now I'm on a roll and I'm happy with it. And I go in there and I pick colors, and I don't ever write down, let's use this and this. It's the when we were doing the 1,000 block or the motor block heads, I
Mhm.
just picked four or five different colors, lay them out. And if I don't like something, I take that out and pick something else. And I don't spend an extraordinary amount of time picking the colors. I didn't with this either. It was just based on how I felt that day. Now you'll see there's a cool ring, the cooler colors. There's a ring there, and then there's the one on the outside up there.
Yeah.
This cooler ring here probably was during the winter months when I was seeing so many northern lights. And it's the same with these using these colors. I intermix the colors. I know that sometimes I do colors that you would think, oh my God, I would never put those two colors together. But they work. Do I know why they work? No. I have a color wheel here, but I never look at the color wheel, because when I look at the color wheel, I'm like, I don't want to put that next to that. I want to put this next to that. Now, do I have colors I don't like? Yes. I don't care to use browns at all. There are certain colors of greens that I don't care for. I don't like drabby colors. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way. Let me give you an example. So, when I was doing my raspberry kisses, this is not all of the kit. It came with lots of bright, happy colors, and then it had these stuck in the between them. You have these. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? and I have batiks. I have some batiks too that have these kinds of colors, and I haven't figured out what to do with them. And the only reason I haven't gifted them is because I feel like that if I just totally shut my mind off from it and don't even try to do something with it, then I might miss out on a learning experience. So I may not like them, but I am willing to at some point figure out how I don't put any color, bright color in it. Just use all these toned down colors and see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I've seen some really pretty quilts that do use kind of that more neutral brownish cream color palette. In fact, the puzzle mystery that I'm doing for Flyway is all those kind of dark.
Which one are you doing?
I'm doing the Odyssey colorway for Flyway.
Since you brought that up, I'm doing Phoenix, and when I got my kit,
that's the.
Tell me what colors you see sitting in here right now. Do you see that?
Yeah.
There's three. There's this color green, this color green, and actually, I would have to get the box out. There's also like it's a gray, bluish, greenish, tannish mixed together. And when I first pulled it out of the box, I'm like, oh my! And see, my viewers voted. I put 3 colorways up, and I said, which one do you like the best that you think I should do? Now, everybody voted for the one that was the purple batiks. But then down in the comment section, every one of them said, you know what we think you should do? We know you love batiks, and this is a batik. But we also know that you love purple. But why not do something outside your wheelhouse? And try the other. And when you put these colors together, they freaking work.
Yeah, they're really pretty.
Yeah, and I think that I will love this before it's finished. But would I use this color on my own? Probably not. Not at this time frame. Maybe probably in the future I might. Because these colors are starting to inspire me a little bit. Because now I see what you can do with green. I didn't know you could put green with pink.
Oh, come on. You remember Miami?
No, seriously, I did not know that until about 7 or 8 months ago. There was a project where it had green and pink in it. And I'm like, you can do that. And then when I put the fabrics together, I'm like, holy crap, they work.
Yeah.
And I would have never realized that. So now I'm like, I want to make a pink and green quilt.
Yeah, you can do a lot. Just playing with those different color combinations, you know, you've got my mind going with that. I want to call it the chocolatey caramel collection
Hmm.
that you had there.
Yeah.
Try some, you know, see what a bright purple or a or turquoise looks like mixed in with those just for a pop of
Yeah.
something different
You
or a,
you you saw the magnolia quilt I did.
Mhm.
It was the original pattern was two colors, which was supposed to be black and white. And I chose to do that really dark batik blue that had the specks in it, the gold specks in it. And then I used a batik white background. But when I was looking at it, I'm like, I really want to put a little color in it. But when I was looking at it, I'm like, how do I put color in it that doesn't take away from the pattern itself? Because it's very modern looking. Technically, I think it might be my first modern quilt, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
And then I realized, why not kind of sprinkle yellow and red in there in little spots.
Mhm.
And the way I did it, when you look at it from afar, it has a completely different pattern. It's still the same pattern, but the way the center part that has it looks like by doing the color the way I did it, it gave it a different effect.
Mhm.
And it worked
Sure.
just using that small amount of color. So
Yeah.
um, it can be done. And I think after I went to QuiltCon this past year, which was my first time going, when I left there, I left inspired. And I'll tell you two reasons. There's probably lots of reasons, but there's two things that caught my eyeballs. Um, the first day, people all were at the front of the quilt show, going through the quilts, and I decided that I was going to start at the back of the quilt because I didn't want to deal with so many people, and I was worried about getting sick.
Mm.
And so back at the back was 4 rows. And on the sign, it said it was a community project where they had to use yellow, purple, and teal. Now, I'm like, teal? I knew you could do turquoise with purple and yellow, but teal? And when I'm walking through there, I'm like, oh my gosh, those 3 colors actually worked. You would have not thought in a million years. And a lot of people don't even like yellow and purple for some strange reason anyway. But these quilts were beautiful. And then as I worked my way over the next 2 days, I ended up toward the front where the one of the categories was maximalism.
Mhm.
I knew what minimalism was. It means less,
Right.
lots of negative space. But maximalism means there's no negative space.
Right. It's
And,
all
yeah, none, zero. And this one quilt, every inch of it was nothing but scrappy color. And it was warm colors mixed with cool colors. And when you looked at it, there was no rhyme or reason of what kind of pattern I think what they did is they did a crumb quilt
Mhm.
or improv quilt. And all they did was just sew lots of colors together and kept getting bigger with it. And it was a nice size quilt. It was probably a queen size quilt.
Mhm.
And I'm like, if they can do that, I can do that.
Yeah.
And, so I think I'm leaning more toward the modern. I still don't really think I understand exactly where the difference lies between the fundamental usual way of doing quilts versus the more modern way of doing it. Because sometimes I feel like you can take a regular quilt pattern and make it modern by making it loud and in your face.
Yeah, sometimes color choices do. And yeah, it's, you know, if you want to get into technical definitions, you probably could make a distinction. But yeah, just quilt what you like. If it tends to the more traditional, sometimes that's great. If it's more modern, sometimes that's great too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I think I'm like in the middle of it. I really want to make a couple of beautiful. And I feel like the Magnolia is a modern quilt. It has that modern look to it. But I also want to find another pattern, someone's pattern, or figure out how I can create a more modern. I messed around a little bit with some half square triangles. It looks like I made a Navajo thing, and I wasn't even trying for that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to see if I could do this with it. And it looks modern too because it has a gray background and I use only two other colors.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's gray, blue, and orange. That's the only colors I used in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks very modern. So, it's just me messing around. I don't know that anyone will ever like that one, but I don't care.
Yeah, as long as you're happy with it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Exactly right. So, one of the other questions I like to ask people is, what's your best advice for beginner quilters?
My best advice is take your time for the learning process. Don't rush it. I feel like if you rush through the learning process, you may miss out on valid things. Like one of the things that I realize is I have no understanding or until I started doing this anyway. I have no understanding of how blocks actually work mechanically.
Mm, hmm.
Why you do it this certain way to get it to look like that.
Right.
Um, math's involved, but that's not the part I'm talking about. I'm talking about the mechanics of it itself and how designers make these things work together in tandem with each other so that they all coexist and it's not a hot mess.
Sure.
So take your time learning,
Hmm.
find people who will mentor you if you can. Uh, get involved with a community if you're like me and you're in remote areas where you don't have quilting clubs or a quilting shop. Get online and make friends with people in communities. You can do it through YouTube. There's so many things these days. We have YouTube. Some people like Discord. Then we have Facebook. There's groups for that. A lot of our Facebook groups are tied to the YouTube channels we have.
Hmm.
There's plenty out there, and find someone that you can connect with and that group of people that you're connected with, because there's always someone. If you say, I need help with this, what can I do? Someone's going to help you. I have never seen anyone in all this time, this little short amount of time I've been doing this, turn someone away because they asked a valid question. Any question is a good question. There's no stupid question as
Right.
far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
because you need to figure it out. There's no
Yeah,
sense just being
exactly.
stuck.
And the next thing is when you're sewing, be consistent. You do not have to have a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're not. I feel like one of the things we need to let newbies know is you don't have to strive for perfection. What you need to strive for is just being consistent.
Mhm.
So if you do the same seam on every piece you're putting together, it's going to come together. Don't switch sewing machines when you're doing it, unless your sewing machine breaks, of course. But if it's not broken, don't change it.
Yep. Yep. Such good
And then,
advice.
and there is a difference because I have a PMQ over there that was done on my Singer Talent, and when I started putting the rest of it together on this one, you wouldn't believe the difference. Oh my gosh,
Uh-oh.
it does do that. Um, and again, ask for help.
Mhm.
You know, don't be shy.
Yeah.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, do you be you?
Mm. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. This is
I'm trying to think of anything
art.
else.
Yeah, art is supposed to be an expression of ourselves, so don't
Yeah,
force yourself into somebody else's cookie cutter. Just
yeah, exactly. And you don't, you can take someone's pattern, and you'll agree with this. You see so many people that copy,
Mhm.
and I don't really like using that word because someone might take offense to it, but you'll see the same quilt made the same way, and it be made by 10 different people using the same colors, the same style, the same pattern. You could take that pattern and make it you by changing the color of
Mhm.
it or changing the way the quilt tops
Yeah,
put together.
yeah, for sure. Um, Good point. You do something to make it unique and individual to you.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
experiment.
mhm.
And I do that a lot. I'll sit sometimes and I'll say, I and I'll give you a good example. Um, the channel so long.
Mhm.
What got this started was I was messing around and I was bored and I didn't really want to work on a project. I was having sojo issues.
Mhm.
And I said, I wonder what would happen if I take two 5-inch squares and sew 1/4 inch sew lines on two sides parallel to each other. and then cut them in the middle one way and then cut them the other direction in the middle. I didn't know there was such a thing as doing that. I ended up with 2 4-patch blocks out of that.
Yeah.
Now, see, I didn't know you could do that.
There you
Now,
go.
that was just me messing around. And then I'm like, what would happen if I sewed all 4 sides and then cut them on the diagonal?
Yep.
Turns out you get half square triangles out of it. And I
Very.
didn't even realize that.
Yep. Quick
So
and
this
easy.
is, yeah, so this is way that new people can just take, if you don't want to mess up pre-cuts, take some of your scraps and play around with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. I love that sense of adventure and experimentation. That's wonderful. Now, I know you do a lot of live videos on YouTube and you have different theme days. Can you quickly tell us what your broadcast schedule is on your YouTube channel?
Normally, I do Thursdays and Fridays starting at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Saturdays is 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Now, yesterday I did it at 4:30, so it can be 4 or 4:30, but it's usually those 3 days a week. And then I have currently, because I started this at the beginning of February, I have 3 different collaborations I'm doing with 3 different creators. I'm doing a star climber with Sean. So we're doing that once a month, and it's on an early Sunday morning, which you saw this morning. And then I'm doing a mental health live. We really should be talking about this, period.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it with Danny from So Not an Expert, because she's not afraid to talk about mental health because she suffers from it. And my friend Myra, who happens to have a master's degree in mental health, she's hopped on the wagon with me. And what we're trying to do is start a small community of where if someone's in trouble or they need to talk, or they're having a bad day, they can contact one of us, or they can come into the live once a month and say, how do I handle this? Now, most people just assume we're talking about all the bad things that happen to people to make them the way they are. That's not what we've been doing. We've been talking about toolkits on how to handle stress, how to handle anxiety, what to do when we have a shutdown. How can we drag ourselves out of that shutdown when we're in the middle of them? Because some of us do shut down. I do.
Yeah.
And mostly I do it because of stress. And and it's turned out to be a really great thing. People are coming and the watching, and people are asking questions. And I have a new subject I want to talk about, because something that someone said in my live yesterday. Laura, she's been sick for the past year between breaking her back and then this illness she's had. And she says she's lost her sojo and she doesn't know how to get it back. We're going to talk about that, how to get it back.
Oh, that's great.
And all the little tiny things you can do, like sew a few blocks together, or sew a little bit of scraps together. And we'll make a big thing about that. So, when someone's having trouble getting back into the groove of things, they don't have to sew. They can do any crappy thing.
Right.
Anything to light up that creative juice that we all have that makes us do the things we do.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great topic. So
yeah, it's a really good topic. And the other thing I'm doing once a month is the crochet sew along that I do on Tuesdays, 1 Tuesday a month. And that anyone who crochets can join us on that live. Right now I'm doing it with Crafty Witch. Her name is Andy, like you. And also Shonda from Under the Needle. She's been doing it with us too. So we all 3 of us been getting together once a month and crocheting, and people are coming in and doing that. So that's the other thing. But the main ones are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Well, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you today, Katy. Thanks for sharing all your wonderful life and quilting adventures.
Thank you for having me, and I hope everybody enjoys your podcast.